Hi, in this video we're going to be talking about the rock cycle and the three types of rocks. This connects to this standard right here, MSES 2-2. We are starting to learn about how there's different processes on Earth that affect the geology, so the geosphere. And to really master this standard, we first need to understand what rocks are. So we're going to start there. So, in the last note presentation, we talked about the cycling of matter. We also talked about how matter is important for all living things, and without it, living things cannot function. We focused on water, carbon, and nitrogen, and we talked about how these elements get recycled on the Earth. There's another cycle that we're going to focus on today. It's called the rock cycle. And rocks, just like the water, carbon, and nitrogen cycle, recycle rocks and minerals. And it has been doing that for millions and millions of years. So the rock cycle is a process where different rocks are formed and reformed through melting, cooling, and pressure. Here's a picture of the rock cycle. And this has been going on for millions of years, and it's the reason why the Earth has been changing for so long. The Earth that we see today is different from the Earth that was here hundreds of years ago. And it's because the rocks are constantly changing on the surface of the Earth. You can see down here, there's magma, and up here, there's weathering. Rocks can move down and get buried to make sedimentary rocks. With heat and pressure underneath the Earth, it can form metamorphic rocks or igneous rocks. We're going to talk more about these types of rocks in more detail. So there's three main types of rocks. First is igneous rock. Igneous rock is formed when melted rocks or magma under the Earth's surface cools. There's actually two different types of igneous rock. The first type is extrusive. Extrusive rocks are usually on the Earth's surface. It's when magma bubbles out of a volcano and it actually cools down. Some examples are here. Basalt and obsidian are two types of extrusive igneous rocks. The other type of igneous rock is called intrusive. Intrusive forms inside of the Earth's surface or under the Earth's surface. So an easy way to remember this is intrusive inside, extrusive exterior. An example of an intrusive igneous rock is granite. The second type of rock is called sedimentary rock. Now you can tell if a rock is sedimentary if you can see layers like this. These are all types of sedimentary rocks. Sedimentary rocks form when tiny particles or rocks, they cement together from tons of pressure and time. There's two types of sedimentary rocks. The first type is called clastic. Clastic sedimentary rocks form when smaller particles called sediment get cemented together. Some examples are conglomerate, shale, sandstone. And you can see the differences between these rocks are the sizes of the particles. Conglomerate rocks have really large sediments, whereas shale has very fine sediments. The second type of sedimentary rock is called non-clastic. Non-clastic forms in the ocean, and minerals are crystallizing, and when those crystals get cemented together, it forms a non-clastic sedimentary rock. Here's some examples. We have rock salt here and limestone. The third and final type of rock is called metamorphic. Metamorphic rocks are kind of the rock in between igneous and sedimentary. You can tell from the shapes and the lines you see here. It has the layers from sedimentary, but the layers are not straight. Like if you look at the sedimentary rocks, you can tell that they have distinct layers. Metamorphic rock actually forms under lots of heat and pressure, and because of that, it actually changes the minerals within sedimentary or igneous rocks in it, and you can see that it forms this type of rock called this metamorphic. Now there's two types of metamorphic rock. The first type is called foliated. Foliated metamorphic rocks usually have minerals that are arranged in straight bands. So here is an example called gneiss. Non-foliated metamorphic rock has minerals that are not arranged in bands. So a classic example is marble. Here it is. Now there's different forces in the rock cycle that cause the rocks to transform from one form into another. So let me walk you through the 6 different forces that actually change the rocks. The first one is melting. Melting takes place under the Earth's surface, and usually it's when rock just melts into what's called magma. The second force is volcanic activity. When magma is really hot, it becomes less dense, so it rises towards the surface of the Earth, and then sometimes it will push out of the surface of the Earth and bubble out. When it does that and cools down, it forms lava, and then it hardens into igneous rock, which we talked about a few minutes ago. The third force is called erosion. Erosion is when forces like wind and water break rocks on the Earth's surface. So you can see here's a picture of rain, and there's also wind, and these forces can actually break the rocks on the Earth's surface into smaller particles, and these can actually get washed away by rivers or blown away by wind. And we call that deposition. Deposition is when those forces carry the smaller particles into new places. So maybe a river will wash some of the sediment or dirt into a new part of the ocean, and so on and so forth. The fifth force is compaction. Compaction, think of the word compact. It means to press down or make smaller. Compaction is when there's a lot of pressure and it starts packing the rocks into layers. And you remember that sedimentary rock usually has layers, so when there's a lot of pressure and compaction, and you can see here after deposition we have burial and compaction, it actually forms sedimentary rock. And then the last force is heat and pressure combined. So there's heat underneath the surface, there's pressure when there's a lot of rock piling on top. So when there's heat and pressure combined, that's when metamorphic rock forms. So a rock can turn into different forms based on these 6 forces. These 6 forces can occur at any time, and depending on the force that's there, the rock will change. So let's say we have sedimentary rock here, and the more sedimentary rock there is that's lower towards this part of the Earth, the more heat it will have. And if it undergoes a lot of heat, it could actually melt back into metamorphic rock or igneous rock. An igneous rock can actually turn into metamorphic rock if it undergoes heat and pressure as well. Igneous rock can turn into a sedimentary rock if it, gets up into the surface and then it gets deposited down into sediment. So you can see the rocks can actually become any type just based on heat and pressure. It also depends on location. So a rock, if it's closer to the surface of the Earth, like up here, it's going to get more exposed to things like wind and air and water, and that's going to cause it to break down into smaller particles, which will form sediment. Whereas rocks that are deeper into the ground, such as around this area, are more likely to get exposed to heat and pressure because it's closer towards the center of the Earth. And that actually influences the type of rock as well. Obviously, if you're deeper into the ground and you have more heat, it's probably going to become an igneous or a metamorphic rock. before it can become sedimentary.